What's up, Rockstars? Chaz here, the Lifestyle Warrior, bringing you a Rockstar success story of the month for the month of February. I'm super pumped. Welcome Ashley, or better known on Instagram as #HustleAtHomeMom. Super excited to have you on board. Thanks for being on here.
Hey, thank you so much for reaching out. I'm really excited. Like, I feel intimidated. I feel like, I'm not that much of a success story, but you're very kind. I'm happy to talk to you today.
Awesome. Yeah, and one point I want to drive home real quick for you guys, because a lot of people can get stuck in a mindset of big numbers equal big success. And you can probably agree that it's not about the numbers necessarily, because I relate it to, as a health and fitness coach, I can always relate stuff to fitness. So I relate it to, a lot of people will say, oh, $10,000 a month. That is huge for some sellers, and that's very small for others. So the people who are big dogs pulling the big numbers, they're going to look down and be like, $10,000, what is that? But success is relative, guys. That means it's different for everybody. That's like me saying any male who can't bench press 300 pounds is not a success, right? It's relative for everybody. So what may be small for some people is going to be big for others. Right. So I don't want to necessarily highlight the people doing the very, very massive numbers per se. I just want to highlight people in the Rockstars group, in the community, who are hustling and achieving whatever goals they want. I don't care how small that other people think it is. So I was kind of stalking, a little background. I was kind of stalking Ashley on her Instagram for a couple weeks, probably even a month, because I was looking for people who are putting in the work. And so I caught on to the fact that she is very active on the stories side, which is kind of like Instagram's version of Snapchat. So quick little stories, 1-minute clips you can take. And I got super impressed because she was hustling every flipping day. Not just that she was hustling, but that she has small children and a busy life without FBA. So she's putting in her hustle into, what time do you go to bed on average?
Oh my gosh, late, like 1 or 2 a.m., honestly. Like I usually get like 4 or 5 hours of sleep. Like if we're being real, this is the reality. This is what I'm doing right now. I don't know if it's sustainable for a long time, but like it's what I'm currently doing to pull these kinds of numbers.
And that is exactly why I wanted to bring you on here to share a little bit about yourself, because I think a lot of people can relate with that. I'm fortunate enough that I became self-employed about 3.5, 4 years ago. So some people can't relate with my story because I'm in a position where I do work at home. I do have the time freedom to create my own schedule. But I know you do work at home, but at the same time, you've got a lot of extra stuff going on. So I think that people can relate with you so well because you've got the children, you've got the husband that's working a full-time job, and you're putting in those late nights and those early mornings. You're doing what it takes. And that's exactly why I wanted to bring you on here.
Right.
So
and
thanks
if you
again.
hear, this is real life. My son is crying and screaming because I think he's sick. I'm not sure what's going on. So like my husband's going to be taking care of it, but that's part of my life. Like I'm working at night and I'll hear my child screaming or crying, and then I go tend to them, and then I just come back downstairs and keep working. So yeah, it's hard. Like and I've talked about this on my Instagram too. Like it's hard to balance both, but I'm really driven to make my FBA business, eBay, everything I'm trying a success. And I don't know if it's for better or for worse, but I'm putting in a lot of hours. That's for sure.
And it's always that grind that you put in now is going to be well worth it down the road.
I think so. And I'm a big believer in that. Like if you put in work, I don't care what you're doing. Like if you put in the work, put in the late nights, and are just trying your hardest, like even if I've told my husband before, even if we all break even at the end and we come out with nothing somehow, like on a failed venture or whatever, like it's worth it because this is my business degree. I told him, like, this is my business degree. This is what I'm paying for. I'm paying to experience this, to see what's the next step going to be. That's what I'm always looking towards, is what's my next step? How can I increase this, get more, make more, keep with the sales that I'm doing, but like without so much effort on my part where I'm like up till 2 a.m. every night. So yeah, like it's just a snapshot into my life just now with my 2-year-old crying. Like this is just kind of how I'm trying to juggle things.
Absolutely. So let's dive into a few common questions. Because the second that you hear any success story, people always want to dive in and figure out how the heck did you do it. So let's start with the basics. Who are you? What does your life look like? What's your background? And we're talking like pre-FBA. Who's Ashley?
I was born and raised in Northern California. I met my husband about 8 years ago, and we got married, moved back to the Bay Area. He was working full-time at a one of the big four auditing companies. He's an auditor for a living. And I worked at a corporate job in the city as well. Corporate jobs are hard, and they are so taxing, and the hours are crazy, and the days off are minimal. And I just knew from, like, even from that long ago, like, I don't like this. So I have the entrepreneurial spirit anyway, because my family owned a restaurant for 10 years that I worked at when I was in high school and college. And a restaurant is hard work. And, you know, and I just was exposed to hard work even then. And so I think I've always just had this taste for like the entrepreneurial spirit. If you work really hard, you can be a success story. If you're willing to, you know, blood, sweat, and tears, do what it takes to be successful. So during that time, I was getting my master's in psychology. Actually, I was a school counselor. I was working to be a school counselor while my husband was working in the Bay Area. We moved to Utah a few years later. He got a job transfer in Salt Lake City. And so I did school counseling for a little while. And then my son was born, and I wanted to stay home with him. And my first son, and he's 4.5 now. And we have a 2-year-old as well. And they're about 1.5 years apart. And so during that time, like, I thought being a stay-at-home mom would be amazing. And it is. I love being home with my boys. It is the hardest freaking job in the world that nobody tells you. It's so hard. Like, you don't get time off. They need you. They want you all the time. And having that first little baby, and my son was colicky, it was so hard. And like, I went to kind of not a great place, like, you know, the baby blues. And I wouldn't call it postpartum depression, but like, I felt kind of empty. Like, I felt like I didn't know what my identity was anymore. Like, it felt like I was just constantly feeding my son, constantly trying to calm his cries. And like, my brain was shriveling up like a prune. And so, you know, after having him for, you know, about 1 year, you can hear, I don't know if you can hear in the background, we're still trying to deal with my crying child. But after about 1 year, I started to pick up some freelance writing work. And that was such a good outlet for me to like, just feel like an adult, feel like part of my brain that had gone to school and worked was like still functioning. And I was oiling those gears still, if that makes sense. Because, you know, you can only watch so much Elmo before you just start going crazy. So I was doing freelance writing, and then had been doing that for a while when I had my second son. And that was, having 2 children so close together was also super hard. And then about 1 year ago, I found out, like, I don't know how real we're gonna get, but like my half brother passed away, and it was really tragic, the circumstances, and it put me in a place mentally where like it was so hard. I was in such a slump, and I couldn't like recover. And so I needed something desperately, because I'm the kind of person that I need to be working. I need to be going. Like, I need my mind occupied, or else like it's not good when I don't. So I listened to the Smart Passive Income podcast, and there's an episode where they talk about selling on Amazon, and it just clicked for me. I was like, yes, I want to try this. And I went to Walmart. It was like 11:30 at night, but I was so excited. I was like, I want to see if this is real. It feels like magic. This can't be real. So I went to Walmart, and I went down the clearance aisle, and I found these mosquito repellent candle refills. They were $3 on clearance, going for $25 on Amazon. I was like, okay, what? This is crazy. This can't be real. But I cleared them out. I bought all of them. And I bought like some random toys, and I bought like a bunch of other stuff that like I didn't quite know what I was doing. So like, if I saw that it was a good return, then I got it. So I got a few other things. I spent about $100, and then I brought it all home. And that night I packed it all up. I was up to like 3, I think. I packed it all up, did my first box. I wanted to do the whole process start to finish, Cause like, I just have that brain. I just want to like do it. When I hear about something cool, I want to do it right away. I don't want anyone to tell me to wait or stop. And my husband is so cautious. I knew he would tell me, you need to slow down. Let's think about this. Let's research. I was like, no, I want to just try. So I jumped in, and sure enough, my shipment hit Amazon, and those candles were selling. They all sold out. And I was like, this is crazy.
Nice.
And ever since then, I found that doing FBA and building this business, and then eBay later on, has helped me so much. Almost the greater blessing is mentally. Mentally, it's helped me so much to feel fulfilled in a way that like I wasn't quite before. I'm not saying that a stay-at-home mom isn't fulfilled. Like, they are working so hard. Everyone does what they need to do, right? But for me, I needed something extra to help me through a slump. And it's been the most wonderful blessing. And so, yeah, since then, I didn't know where to stop. I dove deep into it, and I haven't come out yet. And I still am obsessed, but it's in a really good way, I think.
And you're just being a hustle at home mom now.
I am hustle. And now, like, I love that I can be with my boys still. Like, I can still hang out with them, and we still go to preschool field trips, and I'm there every day picking them up, and I'm there tucking them in at night, and then I can work from home and make more than I would at a full-time job, you know?
And that's really the crazy part a lot of people don't understand is you have the ability to do that. So yes, even though you might be putting in more work than your regular job, the payoff is your time freedom. We talked a little bit about this before we started hitting record, but we do this for money. There's nothing wrong with that. We all do this for the money, but it's not making the money that counts. It's what you're using the money for. And that time freedom, like you said, the time to spend with your family at home.
Yes, that's absolutely. Definitely. And that's what I want for my husband too. You know, he's at a job, and we're very blessed, and I don't want to sound ungrateful. We're grateful for the job he has, and it pays well. And, you know, it's because of his job that I've been able to roll back everything I've made into my business to continue to ramp it up. But my dream is for him to come home with me and do this with me and not need to work at that corporate job anymore. So one day we'll get there, but that's one of my big driving forces, is just envisioning us together on our own schedule, not bowing to anyone else, you know, like getting to do our thing, be as successful as we want to be, with no limits. And that's just, I don't know how far down in the future that is, but that's something I'm kind of holding on to right now.
So a common thing that people run into is capital when they first start, right? Like some people are starting with $50, other people are blessed and they're starting with $10,000. Where did you start with your capital, and what methods did you first start with in the beginning?
So I started with $1,000, and I had already had $1,000 from my freelance writing business that I had just kind of saved up. And I get this question a lot too. I had already had an LLC with my freelance writing business. So I opened up a DBA under that LLC for my Amazon business. And so that's something that's been helpful because I've already got that formed, and that was in place to move forward with like a bank account and, you know, the tax the bookkeeping stuff. So yeah, I started with $1,000, and at this time, like, I was just experimenting with pretty much Walmart clearance and like Target clearance, new stuff. And then I hadn't ventured into books until a month or two later, when I stumbled across Mike Resendez, Crazy Resells, who is the king. He is so awesome. And I just learned a ton from him. And so, yeah, everything I earned, every penny I earned, I still haven't paid myself. I still have not paid myself a penny because I'm not interested. I'd much rather spend that on inventory to make me more money later. So, a couple months later, I started doing books because they're really cheap, and you can stock up your inventory with a ton of them. And it's like a numbers game. The more you put in, the more numbers the more daily payouts you'll see. So that's just kind of been my strategy. Thrift store, I had to start small at first. Like, I couldn't, as tempting as it was to just jump in and buy like a liquidation lot or like a big lot of something, a pallet of something. I just didn't have the resources to do that because I didn't want to sit around and wait. So luckily from month one, I think we sold around $1,700, which gross. And so I slowly, I think it took a couple months before I got that money back, and then more. And then it's just taken, as I've continued to spend it, it took time to like come back to me. And now we're in a really good place where I'm continually seeing large payouts that I can turn around and just dump on. Just today I spent, I think, like $800 on clothing, you know, but it was not, there's no sweat off my back because I had plenty of money coming in, and I know in a week or two I'll have a few thousand more coming to me to then go back and spend more. Because really, like, if you and what I want other people to know is, like, as tempting as it can be to say, oh, I have this money in my account, treat yourself, right? You're not just spending that money, like, it's not just a loss of $20. It's a loss of what that $20 could have earned you. So it's really a loss of 100, 200 or more. And so that kills me inside to think about. So I just, until we're in a really comfortable place where I'm ready, I'm not going to be taking any money out until, like, really, I don't know, maybe until my husband comes home. And then we decide, okay, this is it. We're going to be paying our mortgage with this money. And, you know, then we'll start taking payouts, and then we might structure our business differently. But that's what I would recommend to anyone starting, is to just think of how you can grow it and keep rolling that money back in if you can.
I can't even tell you how much I would confirm that, because we were on the other end where we were pulling way too much out for personal use. We were on this debt freedom plan, right? So we're like paying all this extra money towards debt, and we started getting larger payouts from Amazon. I'm like, well, if I can take an extra $1,000 from Amazon and just pay off this credit card,
yeah,
it's tempting to do that. Now that we are over a year into it, I can definitely second that. Looking back, if I can give myself advice, and you just confirmed it, you keep your business money rolling and compounding in your business as long as you possibly can. Because like you said, it feels like for us, there was a couple times where we'd pull out $1,000 or $2,000 at a time. But like you said, that $1,000, that could have turned into $10,000 a couple months down the road.
Exactly. That idea caught onto me of, let's just reinvest and just see where this can go. And hopefully, like, 10K the last few months has been great, but I want to see more. I want to see 15K, 20K, you know, if I can. I don't know. Can I do it without eliminating sleep? I'm not sure if that's possible, but maybe and that's the thing. Now that I have more money, options are open to me. I can, as I'm getting my paperwork ready for wholesale accounts, I can purchase bulk wholesale accounts that are replenishable. And that's a big goal for me down the road, you know, or I can purchase these liquidation lots from, you know, certain clothing websites or whatever, like Macy's, or, you know, I can spend the money to then reinvest the money. So that's why I also have liked that I've kept everything. And if it's in the same bank account, you don't have to worry about, like, we like to keep our personal and our business separate. So our personal accounts and everything are rolling, and we have our investments and everything else. But my business account, it's nice to know it's all there, so that, like, it's not seeping into the other stuff. Like, it's right there, compounding, growing, and I can watch it and track it, and my accountant can track it as well. So that's one other thing I tell people is, if you have the option, please open a business account. Don't start mixing your personal and your business finances, because then it just becomes a nightmare come tax season. So, and just really for your finances, it's not wise.
So you started with thrift stores, Walmart clearance, the typical thing. I think 99% of newbies, myself included, like, I did the same thing where I first learned about FBA through a little mini conference here in Portland, Oregon. And I slept on it overnight, and like the next morning, 7 a.m., my mind's like, ding, I need to find a store that's open and go scan. I was so pumped up for it.
Yeah.
So the first thing that newbies know what to do is go into clearance sections, right? Now that you have, how long have you been a seller, by the way?
I think about 9 months, 9 or 10 months. So we're coming up on a year. So
in your 9 months, you've definitely learned a thing or two, especially about going into like clearance sections. It's not as great as people always think it is. So now that you've experienced some stuff, have you moved completely out of the clearance stuff and thrift stores? Are you doing just books? What's your business model look like right now?
Right now, okay, so I still do books, and we, you know, I still love books. And what I think really books are just such a great place to start as well. What, you know, okay, the Walmart clearance, if I can touch on that for a second, like, it's great, but here's what happens nearly every time. And I know you know this as well. You send your item in, it has a great ROI, and the price tanks because everyone else is doing it too. And you can either wait for it to go back up, and it's kind of a gamble. You don't know if it will, or you can just sell it at, you know, bare minimum penny profit and move on. And so I got really sick of seeing that happen. So that's why books were great, because books, you know, there's not a ton of other competition. Especially if you find like a one-off book at the thrift store, you don't have to worry that someone's going to suddenly take the price. Sometimes big booksellers will come in, but like as long as you hold your price for a little bit, you're going to see a good return. And so yeah, we built up our book inventory. I would say at least 50 to 60% of our sales are books, and especially in January, almost 90% of our sales were books. Like and January was a $10,000 profit, or not profit, gross sales month. And a lot of that came back to us as profit because they were books and it was textbook season. So books are great. And I know a ton of people, and I've connected with some cool people who that's their full living. It's just books. They don't bother with clothing, with thrifts, with anything else. They just mostly do books, and they're making a killing. So I do books, and then I do eFlip books too. eFlip is just online software that allows you to buy books merchant fulfilled on Amazon and sell them again for a profit as an FBA seller, which I know you know. So we do that a lot too. That's a big part of our business model. My husband will do that at night. He'll just on his phone, and that's what's nice about eFlip. You can do it from your phone, and he'll just go through and be buying book after book. And then once they come here, we'll turn around and we'll sell them for a profit. And that's been a really nice stream of income for us as well. And then clothing, I've been getting a lot more into clothing and shoes. And that's one of the things, that's a benefit from people who've been doing it a little bit, not very long, but a little bit longer, is like you and me, we're ungated in certain categories before all the restrictions happen. There's still plenty of opportunity for people. Like, I don't want anyone to get discouraged. There's tons of opportunities. Vans aren't restricted. There's a lot of things that aren't restricted right now. Taboo to say that. I don't. There's a lot that's not restricted. You can cut that out if you want.
Yeah. We can enter something real quick. Is, you guys, there are more brands out there than just Nike, Adidas, and Under Armour.
Yeah. There are. Yep. Exactly. There's tons, and there's so much there's so many brands that you can sell in. And what's nice is, for the most part, if you sell in that brand before it becomes restricted, you are grandfathered in, and you can then sell it later on, which happened with me with Adidas. Like, I sold one Adidas pairs of shoes. That's all I sold. And then I did mostly books. And then sure enough, when Adidas got restricted, I wasn't restricted because I had sold that one pair. So it's worth it to just kind of branch out. And that's what I'm trying to do currently, branching out in a lot of different name brands, just so that I can sell it and have it and be grandfathered in case that's the case with Amazon later. I know with one certain brand, even though I had sold in it, they still restricted all sellers. But for the most part, if you have sold in a brand before, you can sell it later on. So I've been doing a lot of clothing, a lot of like bras and panties, a lot of like online clothing, like clearance items that I have pulled to me. I've been doing a lot of I make my own listings. I've been dabbling in that a lot more, and it's turned out to be pretty good. So I've been creating my own listings for certain clothing brands that I find for cheap, and then sure enough, they're still selling on FBA. And that was something I was scared to do. If it didn't have a rank, I was scared to put it up there. But so far that's been okay, and I'm curious to grow in that. I mean, I don't know. I'm still new to it. I'm gonna see how it works out, but for the most part, it's been a cool experiment. And then really, when I do go to the thrift store, like, I'll still grab VCRs. Those have been doing very well for me. I'll grab old VCRs as long as they work. And then whenever I'm buying a VCR, I'll grab those cords, the 3, AV cords that you need, because they're always nearby for like $1. And I'll still sell calculators, like video games and consoles. Of course I do those, and those sell very well. And that was a big part of my summer. I spent not even almost every Saturday, 6 a.m. I'm up, and I went to garage sales with my little fanny pack like a hillbilly. But I made a bunch of money buying video games and consoles and electronics and just books, any number of things. I made a killing. Like a Garmin watches. I mean, there's so much at garage sales that you can get for dirt cheap. These what were they? Yeah, Garmin walkie-talkies that I got, or like a GPS walkie-talkie thing. Someone just sold them to me for $5. They're like, I don't even know what that is. Turned around and sold it for $200, and it sold almost immediately. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that happens at garage sales. So, I did a lot of that, and then. But yeah, as I've been getting more into books and clothing, I'm seeing it is a little bit more money up front with the clothing. I can drop $100, $800, $1,000 easy at an Under Armour outlet, or at a Nordstrom Rack or Marshalls or TJ Maxx. But then I'm seeing big sales coming later on. So, And then, yeah, so I still plan on going to garage sales when the season, it's not quite season yet for where I'm at, but hopefully soon. And then I'll be up on Saturdays again, every
Yeah,
6 to
absolutely.
noon.
Do you use the yard sale treasure hunter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
love that thing. So if you guys don't know, download just, I don't know, whatever app store you have on your phone, download yard sale treasure map. You can find estate sales, yard sales, garage sales. One of my infamous videos on my YouTube channel was me walking into this guy's, it looked like a giant tent he had set up over his carport, and he had like 200 or 300 video games, and I offered him $200 for all of them, swiped them clean. So I'm right there with you. Yard sales are,
yeah, they're awesome, especially when, like, you know, you're coming in on someone who really is just eager to get rid of their stuff, and you can usually, and what's nice is you can usually tell, you can pull up to some, and what I would do is, there's also, like, we have a local website that, like, has all the local ads that's really popular around here. And so I would go there too and just look up the garage sales, and I would just make a map for myself on Google Maps with stars. And I would just go to each one, like, in order of when they started, what they said they were offering, you know. And I just got really organized the night before, and then I was able to hit, you know, because sometimes you can drive around and there's, like, one starting at 9 and then the other one starts at 8 or 7, like, and then I don't know, it can be disorganized. So I got really organized, and I set, like, a schedule for myself and you know, time frames for each one, and that really helped a ton too. Then I was able to hit like 20-30 garage sales and get just basically stop when my car was full, which happened almost every weekend. And that's another thing you can do is you can look up estate sales and what I do is I follow estate sale companies on Facebook, and they tell you when they're coming up, and they'll show pictures, and, like, I'll be, like, foaming at the mouth, like, oh my gosh, I want that bookshelf. Like, I see it, I want it. I'll contact them, and I'll just head over there right first thing in the morning and come away with, you know, ton of books. And what's nice about the companies that run it, like, when a family's running their estate sale, they're, like, emotionally attached to their books and their items.
Nailed
and
it.
This was Dad's favorite series, and I'm charging $100. And it's like, well, it's not worth that. This is an estate sale, right? So I would look for the ones that were run by, like, you know, X liquidation company or whatever. And I'd be like, okay, then I can go to the counter and say, can you just give me all this for $50? And usually they're just like, whatever. Like, they just want to get rid of it, right? That's their job. So that's another tip for, I don't know, for anyone.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Try to find those companies that do it.
And when you get into, so you're doing pretty heavy, and it's pretty split into books, clothing, shoes are kind of your top categories.
I would say.
What are you doing? Let's get into a little bit of specifics. What are you doing as far as when you scan an item? And of course, each category is different, so you can talk about each one if you want to. But what types of ranks are you looking for? We all know that when you scan something, the rank is a current timestamp as of this hour, because ranks by hour.
Yes.
Are you looking at the Keepa graph or the history? What specific numbers and data are you looking at?
For sure. So when I'm doing books, I use FBA scan, and I have a KDC 200i scanner. And so that's crucial for me. And I learned that from Reezy. You know, you have to have really good data and a good app, and it is expensive, but, like, I go through, you know, and I'm on a schedule with my kids. When they're at preschool, I have like an hour to scan. So I have my scanner, I've got database mode, and that is where you can download the whole database for Amazon and just fly through the shelves, because it pulls up the info immediately. So I'll just go through the shelves, and what I'm looking for is, for books, anything that sells above $10, $12, really $12 now that the fees have increased, and has a rank of 1.5 million or less. I'll go above 1.5 million if the return's gonna be real good, or if I'm the only FBA seller.
And that's is that 1.5 million the current timestamp, or are you looking at 1.5?
Oh no, average. Okay. Yeah. So FBA scan will show you the average sales rank over the last 90 days for that item, and that's such a crucial bit of information. The current, like you had touched on, the current sales rank is just a snapshot of what is happening at that moment. Like, it could be a 4 million ranked book that was just purchased yesterday, and the rank shot up to 100,000, you know? And so you have to know that average sales rank. So if I see a book that looks like interesting, on FBA scan, you can tap the camel and you get the camel data, and I'll look at that, and I'll see what the sales rank has kind of been doing, how often. And with the camel.com, you just look at each spike. I mean, it's as easy as that.
Mm-hmm.
Each spike is a sale. And so if you can see in the last 3 months, it's had, 6 spikes, that means every 2 weeks about it's sold. And if you're the only FBA offer, great. Then you know that yours will probably sell in the next month or so because there's no competition. So like, I think of all these things as I'm going, it's much fast. I'm not like talking out loud as I'm doing. I'm like going really quickly, but like, yeah, I try to stay under 1.5 million average rank.
Mm-hmm.
Really 1 to 1.5 million. I want to get like a $20, because I'm more of the fast nickel. I want that money coming back to me.
Yeah.
And then under $1 million, I'm fine with 12, $15. Sometimes even less, $10 if it's going to go, if it's like a, under 100,000, I know it's going to go quickly. And then, yeah, so that's what I do. And I'm just flying through the shelves. But the thing is, I always come home with a couple that I look up later and I'm like, oh, this was a dud and I'm stupid.
Mm-hmm.
But like that happens every time. And what we do with those is we just redonate them. and then I get a coupon from Savers saying I get 30% off. Right?
Check that one off on the tax.
So we had a whole trunk full of books that were duds that we pulled out. So like it happens. But the nice thing with books is it was $1 or $2, like it was a mistake, but it was a couple bucks, not a big deal. You move on. So that's my method. And then so with the thrift store, I'll just start out with education reference, and then I'll move to business and then history. And then I'll scan the cookbooks because I don't have time. I mean, I would go through every single one if I had time. I'll just scan the cookbooks for the ones that I know are worth money, like the old Betty Crocker Red cookbook. Yeah. I know that's worth money. And I know that like anything Cooks Illustrated is going to be worth money. Cooks Country, TV, like those are popular. And Mark Bittman's popular. Anyway, we don't have to go into that. But like I'll just scan and look, okay, I see certain ones that are going to be worth money. And then I'll hurry over to the VCR section and I'll just see, okay, are there any VCRs that I know are going to sell for me? Because those usually turn around in 70 to 120 bucks. I sold 8 in December for between that amount. And they all in succession. Nice. Yeah, just VCRs, which I don't know who's buying them, but thank you. And then I'll look at video game consoles, and really I'll just scan the electronics and then I'll check out. But now I've added looking into used clothing because I'm doing eBay more. And so I'll just scan the used clothing and see. But again, my time is so limited. So I have like an hour when the kids are preschool, and then I'll hurry out, check out, and then later that night just scan in and list everything I've bought.
Nice. So when you get into, are you just sourcing all of your books from thrift stores? Are you going to Goodwill outlets or anything like that? Is there any other methods that you're doing?
So yeah, pretty much all my books are thrift store books. Once estate sale and garage sale season picks up, I'll get more books that way as well. I'll look at Facebook groups or not Facebook groups, but Facebook Marketplace. And sometimes I'll search or offer up and I'll look for books. And I've gotten some books that way, textbooks that someone's just selling for cheap, and I'll scoop them up, But offer up, the thing with offer up on Facebook is I have to go pick it up and I have the kids with me, and I have to find methods that are more, it's just hard. I try to be really present with my kids when they're with me and not constantly dragging them to the post office to meetups plus like if I'm meeting some random stranger, and I have my kids, it's a little nerve-wracking.
And that's if they even show up.
If they show, yes. Oh my gosh.
The local sales are tough because of that reason. Half the time people just don't show up.
They're flaky. So flaky. It's so annoying. Yeah. So, but yeah, mostly thrift stores, estate sales, and then eFlip. That's another big, I would say we're getting into almost a quarter of our books, maybe a third now, are eFlip books that we have sourced online. And so that's great because it's all from home. I'm working on consolidating and working smarter. And that's part of it, is online sourcing that I don't have to be out physically doing. But yeah, thrift stores are my main, and I'll always see other scanners. That's the thing. I'll always see others. And on my Instagram, I have a joke about they all wear camo hats.
The camo hat, right?
The camo hat that I now have one. So watch out, camo hat guys. I have my own, and I'll go scan with it. But like they're out there doing their thing. I don't think they're competition to me though, because they're not. I don't know what they're looking for, and I don't know if they're merchant fulfilled. They'll sometimes just go up to a shelf and pick out a book by sight. Great, good for you. But like you don't have a catalog of 32 million books in your head. I don't care who you are. So I have a scanner. I have data. I use FBA Scan on my phone. They're using the old PDA ones. And I'm never intimidated when I see other scanners. And that's one of the bonuses of just experience. Like I always find stuff they leave behind. So yeah, anywho, that's like my book sourcing. And then with clothing I use FBA scan as well, and my scanner, because it's just faster. And clothing,
And
you're going to find
what's the main reason why you use that for clothing?
Yeah. So the reason I
Because
use it is
you and I both know what it is.
we know what it is. Yep. Is because it shows rank. And
Mm-hmm.
and the Amazon seller app does not show you rank. It hides it for whatever reason.
For
So
shoes and clothing, for whatever, I still have no idea why.
why? Like it's a mystery. So FBA scan will show you rank, and plus like it just shows you everything on one screen.
Mm-hmm.
Just pops right up, and you can see, immediately, okay, this is going to be a good buy or it's not. So yeah, and plus with FBA scan, you can link it to your Amazon account so that it shows you restricted as well. Like, so I'll scan an item and just wait for a second, and it'll show me if it's restricted or not, and I'll still be using FBA scan. So it's nice that it's all in one place. And a lot of clothing will show up as unknown. And that's just the thing. There's so much clothing out there. Like, there's a lot of clothing that is listed already on Amazon and does have a rank and sells regularly, but there's a ton of clothing that doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'll do is I'll find all of the clothing I can that has a really good rank, and I would say under 170, 100,000 about is decent for me. And again, we talked about data. I will just look at data.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see the data, and I want to see, is the return good? Is it a popular brand? How does the listing look? And a lot of times, if it's not a great listing, I'll go and I'll fix the listing. I'll fix the keywords. The image looks bad, I'll fix that, and then it'll sell. Or a lot of times, if it's a much lower, if it's like a bad rank for an item of clothing that's like an Adidas or something, it's just because someone has really upped the price a ton. And so I'll just come in, lower the price, and it'll sell, So, so yeah, a lot of unknown clothing, but when I'm at like a TJ Maxx or Marshalls, I'm looking for ranked clothing, certain brands, and I'll just scan until I find it, and I'll pull it out, and I'll just fill my cart. And then I'll go, and don't miss the bra section, bras and panties. I've made good money with bras and panties because they usually are selling at Ross or Marshalls for $1 or $2 for the panties, $6 to $10 for the bras, and then you could turn around and sell them for $25, $30, $35. So I'll go there. And then with Nordstrom Rack, now that I'm so grateful for the eBay community that has taught me so much about brands, because now I know brands that are popular and high end and do well. And so I've been experimenting with like the Nordstrom brands, like Free People, even like Lululemon. That's not a Nordstrom brand, but Lululemon. What else? Like Eileen Fisher. Just there's so many high end brands. I'm experimenting with creating my own listing on Amazon with those brands and seeing how they sell. And sure enough, Free People and Lululemon is selling. So, and I'm going to experiment with some of the other ones. It's not selling super fast. It's taking a little bit of time, and I'm still experimenting, but I'm seeing major potential with clothing in that way. So that's one experiment I'm working on.
That's awesome. I think the biggest driver home there is the fact that you see a common thread going on throughout this whole thing. It started with, you heard about FBA, you just jumped it. Like,
yeah.
I'm still blown away when you said you did your first shipment the second you got home with your items. Most people wait weeks, if not months, before they send in that first shipment. So you jumped in right away, and it's, one of my terms I like to say is you jump and build your wings on the way down.
Yep.
It's trial and error. It's experience that teaches you more lessons than anything will. Yeah. And now you're getting into the same mentality is carried through this whole journey so far. Is a lot of people are scared to even attempt to create their own listing for something, right? Of course, you guys do your research. There's specific guidelines to follow and all that stuff. You can't create a listing of your own that's already there, right? Like Amazon wants one listing per item.
Yes.
Of course, do your research, look up how to do it correctly. Yes. But you're doing it. Again, it's hustle. You are doing it, and that's what counts.
I that's the only way I know how, is to just jump in, like you said. And like that night I wanted to come home and do my first shipment. I wanted to know what it was like. And I know for myself, that's the only way. Like, once I do it once, it's not scary anymore. So like, I know I made mistakes. There were some things in that shipment I think might still be sitting at Amazon, right? Like, I didn't choose wisely, or the price tanked or whatever, and I lost money. But that's the only way I know how. and this is, and I went into it with that mentality of, this is my business degree. Like if I lose everything, okay, I've learned a ton, and it was better than not trying anything. So yeah, it's a problem too. I jump in really fast. I want to do it right away. I know that it's good to rein it in a little bit and to think. And that's what my husband's so good at helping me with, is like, wait, Ashley, let's like think about this a little bit.
It's called balance, right?
It's a balance. He's a good balance for me in that way. But yeah, I would encourage, and that's what I tell a lot of people on my Instagram, is just jump in and try. You won't know until you try. Okay, maybe like everything sells at cost. Well, fine, you're out a few bucks. Really, I mean, at cost, even you broke even, but you learned a ton, and next time you'll do different, and that's okay. So jump in. And I think a lot of people want it. They're scared. I don't know why. Don't be scared. Just do it. It's really not a big deal. It's awesome. And you won't know until you try.
So you've already touched base a little bit. Do you have a specific sourcing method that if you could do one sourcing method, whether it's one type of flip in one category, using one type of program over the other, one type of store, what's your favorite sourcing method?
Favorite. I mean, okay, so clothing is a lot more fun than books, I will admit. Because clothing is like, it's exciting, it's cute, or it's, a certain name brand that's exciting and it's like a good deal. But I think my favorite, as far as like my best returns, is just my books. When I go to the book section and just tear it up and see a ton of high number books, like high value books, that one is it's just such a sure thing. Like if you get a certain rank, you're paying a couple bucks for it, it's going to pay out a certain amount. It's just easy money. Like, and it's such an easy place to start. So if I could just go book sourcing all day and list a ton of books and if I could get my book inventory up to like 2,000, 3,000, I would be in heaven, because that's just like bread and butter. And every day, if you have like 3,000 books in your inventory, every day you're going to see a payout of, I don't know, $500 probably. Like you really would, because I've told people this before. What I see currently, and I use a repricer, so I don't know if that changes things, but with my books, I see about 1% to 3% sell every day consistently. During book season, it was a little higher, but like every day you see 1% to 3%. So just do the math. The more you have in, the higher payout you'll see. And it's lucky that I have all these books, because on a slow day, I know, okay, I've still sold X amount of books because I have X amount in my inventory, So yeah, that's, if I could just, and that's one thing I'm working on, is hiring a couple people to just source books for me and I really would like to get my inventory of books alone up to 2,000, 3,000. Awesome. And then once I'm there, then I can really experiment with, I have so much capital coming in just from books. Then I can really experiment with wholesale lots, pallets of things, bigger items, more, and then branch out from there. But I'm just grateful that books have gotten me here. Books are what got me here currently, and they're dirt cheap. And I mean, the kind of money you can make on books is crazy. Like really, if you get, and that's why these big booksellers, I'm sure they're raking in millions, because you get 10,000 books in your inventory, you're seeing giant payouts,
And I completely agree. Like right now, and this timestamp of this video, we literally source books and Nike. That's kind of it. Like that's where the money goes.
Because it works.
Yeah,
it works, right?
Yeah, they work, and books they're hands down the highest ROI you're going to find on any purchase, because you can buy them for $2 and you can flip them for 30 plus.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I could just go on about books. I did work at the library when I was in high school because I was a nerd. So like, I have always loved books. I didn't know quite in what capacity till recently.
It kind of came around, didn't it? Now you're
full
making
circle.
money.
Yeah, now I'm making money. But like, books, so the return rate on books is so low. It's like less than 1%, right? I got some books returned during textbook season because kids were dropping classes, whatever. It's just to be expected. But what's nice is, even if they are returned, guess what? You can turn around and resell them. They're used already. So it's not like some broken electronic or some used piece of clothing now I have to sell on eBay.
Or
it's
shoes.
Just a used book. Or shoes. Now what do you do, right? Like you can sell them on eBay or keep them.
This is why I subconsciously, maybe purposefully a little bit, I buy more towards my size. I've had customer returns from a brand spanking new pair of Nikes and they come back with mud on them or something like that. So pull them from inventory and keep them.
Yeah, why not? Hey, it's a loss, right? No, but a loss, but a gain. But yeah, like that's what's so great about books is, and a lot of times Amazon will just look at it and see that it's okay and put it and say it's fine and sellable and just put it right back in your inventory. So I love that about books, and it's just easy. They're small, they're easy to pack. Like I have a really honed system. It takes me about a half hour to pack a box of books, and I'll just go through and like it's just simple, and it's just kind of a no-brainer. You don't have to know anything. Like with clothing, you have to know brands, you have to know what's in style a little bit, and I'm struggling with that. Like I'm not as fashionable as my eBay counterparts, but like books, you just need to know 3 pieces of data, and if you can know those pieces of data, pull the book out. If you know how to scan it and send it in, like you're good. Like just keep doing books, and you'll make a really good income just alone. But the only issue why I'm supplementing books with clothing is that clothing has a nice, I mean, if it's a nice brand, if the rank is really low, it sells quickly. And so that's one nice thing. Books take a while. Like when you put books in your inventory, it's a long tail game. Like you're going to be waiting, months, 6 months sometimes. I try to keep it to the data to where I think it'll sell within 6 months. But like if that's kind of the thing, you're building up your inventory. It's going to be a while before you start seeing those consistent payouts. But with clothing, you'll immediately start seeing it. That's the kind of thing where you send it in and it sells that day. Like I bought a ton of Under Armour cleats from Marshall's, like my whole 2 carts full, and it's already today I'm seeing a ton of sales because people are getting ready for baseball season, whatever, and that's nice. It's kind of nice to see those numbers along with my consistent book numbers that come in.
Awesome. So getting into kind of the nitty gritty stuff, right?
Yeah.
Because we know where you started, we know what you're doing, but there's an in-between, and not many people like to share about it on video, right? Like people know me for my videos because I don't care. I throw everything out there. Let's talk about some failures.
Oh yeah.
Where
do we start?
I'm sure you've had at least 1 or 2 little mishaps a few times.
Just
so
one. Only one.
Are there any particular failures, mistakes, typical newbie mistakes that you've made, and how did you overcome those? And what lessons would you give to newbies who are watching this to help maybe prevent that learning curve they have to go through?
So, we can just begin. Like one thing was I didn't pay attention to rank in the beginning. I was like, oh, this is exciting. It's, it's going to sell for $300. Cool. And it's like still sitting there, and like rank is so important. You have to know that data and you have to learn that data or else your stuff will not sell unless I don't know, like there's certain things you can do to try to get it to sell. You can really tank the price. You can run like a promotion on Amazon, which I haven't experimented with myself, but there's things you can do, but rank is just, at first, you just really need to pay attention to it and understand about when your item will sell. Understand competition. People will come in and undercut the price. Now what do? Try to, like one thing I didn't pay attention to was I would go to like the toy section and I was like, oh cool, I can get a 50% ROI on this box of Legos. And I would send it in and then the price would go down to the point where I wasn't even breaking even. I was losing money, and like, or Amazon would come in. When Amazon comes in, and they have 1,000 in stock or more, like it's over. Just tank your price and be done. Cause it's just, you can't compete with Amazon, So, or you can wait for them to go out of stock, which who knows when that'll happen. So that was one thing I didn't pay attention to either, is when Amazon is a competitor. I was like, oh, it's fine, whatever. No, Amazon, this is like you, and I know you say this a lot, it's their sandbox, right? It's it's the rules of their game. And so they're not going to really, maybe if you have like one item and you undercut Amazon by a few bucks, they're not going to come after you and take their price too. But if you had a whole pallet of something and Amazon comes in with they're going to own the buy box. They'll find a way. Like they're not going to share that with you. I mean, from what I hear from my experience. So
the cool part about that is you can also use, this is why keep and camel are so important, because you can look at the whole, I mean, you can even filter this thing, not just from the last 90 days, but from the time that the listing was created. So it might be a year, 2 years, 3 years. You can see some of them have patterns where Amazon comes in stock, they go out of stock, in stock, out of stock. So if you buy something, price it high where you want your price. The second Amazon goes out of stock, you see the price pop up. and that's where your stuff sells. So that's a good piece of data to pay attention to with Amazon.
Absolutely. Totally. Yeah. Keepa is so essential too. And like, I'm glad you touched on it. It's a Chrome extension. You can just, it'll show all the data you need right below in your Amazon, in the Amazon listing itself, like right there on the detail page. It'll show you sales rank, price history, all that information you need to know. So yeah, exactly. And you can, and another indicator that Amazon might be going out of stock soon. There's two things. One is the how many extension. It's a Chrome extension that shows you how much of a certain item someone has in stock, any of the other sellers have in stock. So if you go into the how many, you click it, it'll show you, okay, Amazon has 999 plus in stock. Okay, I'm giving up. I'm not going to go there. But sometimes it'll show Amazon, or even another seller has 1 or 2 in stock at a really low price. And then you can just wait it out for a week or two, and then, or even a few days, and then the price will jump right back up. So that's one thing too, is that's been handy for me. Another is with books, especially if you see that the new price for Amazon is $10, but all the merchant fulfilled and other people are putting it at $15, $20. And you're like, why do they do that? The new price is cheaper. What they probably know something you don't. They probably know that Amazon's going to be going out of stock soon. So they're holding their prices because they're waiting for when it's out of stock and the price can go up. So that's another indicator that maybe, you know, the stock of new will run out and I can raise my price. So I pay attention to those things. But yeah, that was a big failure in the beginning. And then just, yeah, expecting the prices to hold. I thought once I bought it, oh, cool, the price is this, it's going to stay there. No, it changes. Yeah, unless you, and I even heard of some people during Q4 who just merchant fulfilled, listed as they shopped because the price changes that fast, right? They just listed it right in their phone as they bought in the line as they were buying it so that it would hold that price because they know everyone else is doing this too. During Q4 is a little bit different because things sell so fast, prices do tend to hold a little bit better. But like in normal seasons, you know, the price does go down. Chances are, if it's on clearance at Walmart, you're at Walmart, it's on clearance at every other Walmart in the nation. So, and then with not understanding FBA scan, that was a big failure of mine too. FBA scan takes a little bit to learn. It takes a second to like understand all of the symbols and signs and hieroglyphics and know what you're looking at. And so FBA scan and third-party apps and software do not have access to all of Amazon's data. Amazon releases, as you know, Amazon releases certain amounts of data to that. So FBA scan would show me, okay, this is what this book looks like right now. And it would be like a good price. I wouldn't see any low prices. They would actually just be new prices, but I didn't realize that they were just new prices. I thought that was the used price. So I'd buy it and then I'd go home and be like, what? There's a $5, Jensen Books is selling it for $5. What the heck, FBA scan? Why don't you show me? Well, I know better now. So there's 2 things you can do. You can tap the little magnifying glass in FBA scan and it'll pull up like a live search out of database mode that'll kind of show you more. The better thing to do is to tap the column header that says FBA. It'll take you right to Amazon's page and you can see live what the prices are at that moment. And that really helped me too. I didn't know to do that. And so I'd buy all these books and come home and be like, cool, they're worth nothing. I am dumb. But like now I know better and I know to look before I buy anything. I really do tap that FBA. I see what the prices are currently at and then I buy. And that's been a lot better for me. Gosh, and I mean, we could just go on with my failures. Like I did everything wrong, but that's just how I chose. That's how I chose to learn.
I know another common one too is Amazon condition guidelines.
Yes.
And that's a very big, you guys, there are so many things that Amazon can ban you for. And the easiest one is if you list something in the wrong condition, right? So if you say, this is a new item, but it's got dinged up packaging and a customer complains or an Amazon employee catches that, you're done. Like it's that quick. No, they won't send you an email. They won't give you a heads up. You are just out, right? Yeah. So have you had any newbie mistakes with your own listings on maybe not putting in as much information as you should have?
There was one, and I will say that's one area I've been super, super careful because I've joined the Rockstars group way back when. So I was watching as people were talking about this, and this was a big topic for a long time, and it still is. Like,
you probably heard me talking about how many times I messed up on it.
No, but like a lot of people will send in pictures of like a dinged corner and say, hey, is it still new? No, Is it like new? No, it is very good. Like you can't, you have to just be so careful. So yeah, there was one item. So there was this, and I won't say what it is, but it was this little local liquidation, like warehouse hole in the wall place where they were selling, I think they got pallets of stuff. And then instead of sending them to Amazon, they were just selling them right in their little shop. Right. And so I've gotten some good deals there. But I don't really go back because they showed that something was new. They said it was new in the package. And I was like, cool. And I didn't check. I just I trust that it's new. I, made it look nice. I sent it to Amazon and the guy had returned it and said the wires were cut. Like it was a really kind of and he wrote a review. I mean, luckily I was able to get it taken off. But I just learned my lesson, whoa, you have to, even if some store is telling you it's new, that does not mean it's new. Even if it's, you have to just check and triple check. So for now, and then when all those restrictions were happening a little while ago, I was grateful that I had always played it safe with books. I think I've sold one new book in all of my time doing books on Amazon. Even if it looks perfect, it's like new. Used like new. And I even rarely do use like new. It's mostly used very good. And I get a lot of positive reviews because people are like, wow, it looks perfect. And I'm like, yep, because I'm not selling. Used very good is my safety. I do that with even like new books. But people were getting banned for doing new books. Amazon is this is their game and they can ban you at any time. And that scares the crap out of me. This is my business and my baby. And I don't want to I don't want to piss them off. So I've been careful, but that was one big mistake. And I learned very early on and quickly. I'm glad it happened because I learned quickly, okay, I can't do that anymore. I'm not doing that again. So that was and that's one thing I just cannot press hard enough. Just do it the way the condition guidelines say. A former library book is used good. That's the best it can be. Not very good, not like new. Even if it's pristine, it is used good. And then I'll just say a very well taken care of copy, And so, luckily I have not had really any bad feedback about books. Maybe one or two that say that the CD is missing, but that's just because they don't guarantee, used book. And even Amazon even disclaimed, or there's a disclaimer. It says used items are not guaranteed to have supplemental materials. Yeah. So yeah, that's something I learned early on for sure.
Awesome. So knowing everything you know now, you've got 9 months, you've definitely had great success, even from a newbie time building up to where you are now. What tips would you give for two types of people? One, the people who are kind of just watching these videos, they're on the fence, they love the idea, they want to do it, but they just haven't jumped. And then also the person who has jumped, but they're just so overwhelmed with all this information. Do you have any advice, any tips that you would give that new person that wants to get to your position?
Sure, totally. Okay, so for the person who's just watching these and not doing anything, you will not get anywhere if you don't do something. I'm a nice person and I mean it kindly. I do. Maybe you're in a place where I hear from moms who have little babies at home, and I would say, you know what, babies, give it time. You are in a different place right now. This is, luckily my kids have preschool twice a week, and I have my husband in evenings. I can do this, but be cautious and careful about where you are in life. Are you in a place to dive in like this? But even if not, you can start small, and that's the beauty of this. You can start as small or as big as you want. You don't have to jump all in if you don't want. But I would say just from start to finish, do one box. Just do one. Sign up, do one box, even as not a pro seller, as a whatever kind of seller you want to be. There's the pro seller and the personal seller, right? Or I just signed up as a pro seller.
The pro and individual account.
Pro and individual. Okay. So the individual account, I believe, charges $1 per item, but whatever. Just jump in and don't expect to make any money. Just have no expectations. Just say, this is going to be a learning process. And even for the first month, this is a learning process. I'm going to learn this month. I'm not expecting to make a profit. I want to get back what I put in. That's all I want, is just to break even and see what it's like. So that's what I would recommend. Just from start to finish in one evening if you can, like I did, because I'm crazy, but do it all. Buy it, package it, label it, ship it, and just finish. Just start to finish. And you will not learn unless you try. There's so much I could tell you, And I mean, I'm sure we could talk for 10 hours about all things Amazon, and we still would scratch the surface on the potential. But like, the only reason I'm able to know what I'm talking about a little bit, and I don't claim to know everything, is because I've put in the 9 months of work, right? And I've been doing this really since I started. I've been doing it every single day. I haven't stopped. And I've learned a ton, and I've learned about data, and I've learned about what items do well, and seasonal items, and clothing, and, you know, all that stuff, toys. And anyway, like, I've learned all that from just time. And so it takes time, and you have to start somewhere if you want to get to it. Just like the people who've been selling for 10 years, I want to get to their level, but they have 10 years of experience that under their belt where they know a ton. And I know that I have to put in that time to get that knowledge and that kind of, you know, the kind of income that they see. So yeah, that's what I would recommend, is just start. And also, and I've told some of my Instagram people about this, like, you're not going to understand everything. And don't expect to understand everything before you do it. Like, you're going to learn by osmosis. Like, just surround yourself with Facebook groups, people who are doing this on Instagram, Snapchat, whatever. Just surround yourself. Don't try to understand every piece of lingo as you go. Or if you do, Google it and see, it'll pull up, right? But like, just by osmosis, you'll start to get the hang of it. And a lot of what I've learned has just been because I've been watching the Facebook group for so long, and I've been reading the posts consistently. And sure enough, like, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, I remember reading that. I remember reading something about this somewhere, and it pops up in my head. I'm like, oh, cool. Okay. I'm so glad I read that. And it won't be so foreign. I mean, it's just like any language, right? Learning a language, you dive into the culture, you're not going to know. In Korea, they're speaking Korean, and you don't know. Like, I wouldn't know anything, but after a couple months, you start to pick up on the language and the dialect and what they're saying. And that's just the same with Amazon and eBay as I'm learning. You know, I'm still learning eBay, and I'm excited to grow that. A lot of it was foreign at first, but I know because of Amazon, okay, it's going to be hard at first, but I'm going to learn by osmosis, by watching these Instagram feeds of people who are selling certain brands, or they're looking out for certain things, or they're doing this with shipping, or, you know, and I just kind of learn as I go. And sure enough, like, I'm catching on. And that's just the same with Amazon. So jump in. What are you waiting for? It's an amazing opportunity, amazing, incredible potential. I want everyone to do better than me. I want everyone to do way better than me. And they could, and they should, because I have 2 kids that I take care of full time. So you should be doing way better than me, because I have limited time as it is. So
I love that. Yeah, I've had a couple people, I remember helping them out as newbies. And next thing I know, they're doing 3 times as much as I am. Like, that is,
yeah.
that's such, most people don't understand that reward. That's why, you know, that's why people go onto YouTube. That's why we make these videos. That's why people leave trails on Instagram, right? That's why we do all of this, is because we, at the end of the day, want people to succeed.
Yeah,
sure.
totally.
I mean, we can do all this just by ourselves, and we can go make a ton of money and live our lives, but it's getting that community involvement, that inspiration, that positivity. That's where it's at.
Absolutely. I love it. I love on my Instagram when someone messages me and says, I sent my first box in, and I'm like, and they're saying, I inspired them, which I shouldn't inspire anybody, but I'm so glad. I'm glad that, like, a little thing that I did helped motivate them to take that step. Because a lot of them want to be home with their kids too, or maybe they don't, or maybe they're in college, or whatever situation. Like, it's a cool way to make extra money. Like, you can't deny it. You can walk out of a store with hundreds of dollars in profit. And where else could you do that? What other job would let you do that? You know, I don't know. I can't think of one. So yeah, it's super cool for sure.
Awesome. And are you good with taking a few questions from the community?
Yes, totally.
Awesome. So I'm going to pop over to our Facebook page where we had some people give some questions. So number 1 is, what do you do for your sourcing schedule? Do you have a schedule that you follow? You mentioned earlier you kind of came up with, like, garage sale season, you come up with a route. Do you have a route that you follow for your thrifting and books and clothing? Do you have specific days you go out? Do you go morning time? Obviously, you work around the kids' schedule. What's your typical week look like?
So I have a planner that I could not live without. I use my planner every day, and I write down what my schedule is going to be, for not only for the kids and what they're doing for preschool or doctor's visits or whatever, but for how am I going to plan out my day? Because I have a goal to get at least 200 to 300 items a week I mean, it's a huge goal, and I haven't really met it yet, but 200 to 300 items a week to send into Amazon. So, actually even more. Anyway, it should be more than that, whatever. But I have a schedule, and I think about what thrift stores I haven't hit. I try not to hit the same one over and over, and I'm lucky that I have a lot around me. I have a lot nearby. So I'll think, okay, I haven't gone to this one in a week or two. I'll go back to that one and scan or look at that one. Or, you know, I'm getting low. I'll try to do at least one day with books, one or two. Even on a Saturday, I'll do like half books that morning and then later clothing. But I'll do at least 1 or 2 days of just book sourcing. And we're constantly getting eFlip shipments sent to our door. So that's another way we're getting books continually. And then I'll plan the other 2 days with clothing items, Marshalls, Ross, TJ Maxx, Nordstrom Rack, you know, whatever I can find, even thrift stores just for clothing. And yeah, so I'll just plan out my day, and I'll sometimes like I'm going out in the evening too and sourcing for a little bit until stores close. My kids are usually in bed by 7. And I sometimes can go out until about 9 and look for stuff if I feel like my shipments are all completed and I'm ready to fill up my table with crap again. But yeah, that's typically how I map it out. Usually it's every Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. I have a couple hours each of those days in the day while my kids are at preschool to source. And then evenings, if I want to. Evenings are usually reserved, though, for packing shipments. And then Saturdays from, like, you know, early till about, my husband will watch the kids till about 1, I want to say. The morning till about early afternoon, and then we'll try to do, like, a family activity later in the day.
Awesome.
Yeah, so that's kind of my schedule.
And do you find that you are kind of do you send out one big shipment a week? Because you mentioned you're doing kind of nightly, you're packing boxes. Are you doing away at those as you can? Are you trying to send out 2-3 shipments a week? How's that working out?
So I'm lucky that I have a UPS 2 minutes away from me. It's right down the street. So I can do shipments constantly. So I actually try, and I was more successful earlier on, but now that we've been like getting more into stuff, it's been a little harder. But like I try to actually pack and ship what I got that day and then have it ready to go the next morning. Nice. I don't like a ton of crap constantly in my house. I like to keep it as clean as I can. So if I source a bunch of books, I try to make sure that they're all packed and shipped the next day or the day after. And, you know, the eFlip books, I've talked about this on my Instagram, like my husband has like a system with them, with a spreadsheet and whatever. And he's organizing all that. So that's been cluttering my table for a while. But for the most part, when I get something, I pack and ship it. I don't really do weekly shipments because it's just too daunting. So I like to do it in bits and pieces throughout the week.
So you're doing consistently 10 grand a month plus. You actually just passed your $11,000 mark, right?
Well, so that was, that's like our 30-day numbers. And I had a really big last week in January. So I think that's carrying over from the last week of textbook season as well. But yeah, I'm expecting, like, December was a 10K month. It actually ended up being 11K. And then in the end, and then like January was big, but I'm being realistic about it's maybe we'll slow down a little bit in February, March. I want to continue to see those numbers, and I'm trying my best with what time I have because I work constantly, I feel like. But I'm realistic that if they slow down a little bit to 8,000, even 7, I hope not 7, but like 8,000-ish. But yeah, I'm consistently seeing those. And so far though, this month I have seen we're on track to do 10K, which is exciting. But,
awesome. And the cool part about what you're doing with a lot of textbooks too is obviously we have 2 big spikes every year with textbook season. So by the time you do see it, maybe it dips down, you're going to see that big boost right before that next season.
Exactly. Yep. I'm already thinking of September, August and September, because January was huge, and every day we saw huge sales because of the textbooks that we had gotten back in September, October, November. So I'm already thinking of that.
And just picking through some of these questions here. It's kind of cool because most of these questions you kind of nailed.
Oh, good.
So I believe one of them is, do you use a VA, virtual assistant? If yes, what do they do? So obviously we know you don't have any hired help yet. So
I don't yet.
Yeah. So let's talk about your goals from now moving forward. Let's say the next 6 months. You're planning on hiring help at the house to pack your shipments for you, hiring people to source, virtual assistants.
Right. Yep. For now, like So my next move is to have a couple people, just family members that I know who want, like college students who want extra money, just to go source for me, and then I'll pay them per book that they find, a certain amount based on the value. So that's gonna happen pretty soon, and then it is a goal to have someone come and pack shipments. I don't think it's ideal that it's in my house, but that's what it would have to be for now. But ultimately, you know, I would like to have a warehouse. I want that to happen down the road. And I don't know when that will be, but to have a warehouse, once I start getting like, sorry if this is off topic of the question, but like, I do want to have a warehouse, where I have employees and I have shipments continually coming in. Hopefully wholesale shipments coming in, liquidation, even books from my sourcers coming in constantly, and then stuff being processed all there. Because that's one frustration, is it's in my house, and I am kind of a neat freak, and I like things to be tidy, and it's not. There's crap everywhere all the time. My bonus room is full of eBay stuff, and my mannequin, and my photography studio, and then my downstairs kitchen table is just full of books and clothing now. And so that would be, I don't know how far down the road that is. That might be when I feel like we can afford for my husband to quit and come join me. But yeah, having people help. I mean, a virtual assistant would be cool. I've been thinking about that for, you know, eBay stuff. Like if I can get all of my photographs in like a spreadsheet over, and then just email them and have them create the listings. That's something I'm thinking about for sure. But yeah, I'm going to need hired help to get my head above water. Like if I want to continue to grow, I've got to hire some people. And that's just, as soon as we get all of our ducks in a row with taxes and we have the forms ready with my accountant, then we're probably going to hire on some people part-time.
Yeah, it sounds like you're kind of at that pivot point where a lot of people get. I just went through this myself, so we had to hire our first 3 employees. And yeah, it's a tough thing because and this is something not a lot of people talk about, like, if you're game, I would love to bring you back on board to talk about kind of 2.0, right? Which is getting more into like the mentality of working at home, because there is a extreme like work-life balance battle that goes on every day.
Yes.
Especially when stuff like I'm actually, you know, I'm right here in my garage is where this is at. So we're in the same boat where we both work at home full time, but it's a mental game that not a lot of people talk about. So you probably go through that as well, finding that work-life balance, and especially when you get a warehouse. That's like, for us, we're in that same position where we cannot wait for that day, because it's going to be amazing just to like have it separate from the house. So it's like personal time is personal time, work time is work time type of thing.
Yeah.
So if you're game, I would love to bring you back on board for 2.0 and kind of dive a little bit more into that background.
I mean, as long as people are willing, unless they're like, no, never have this crazy lady come back, she's a psychopath. And I'll be like, yes, you're correct. The men in white coats are going to put me in like a straitjacket and take me away soon. But yeah, like I do have plans. And that's the thing, is I know we won't grow unless we expand. We just won't. We're at a point where I'm at like that, like you said, the tipping point where I can't do much more on my own. I'm already overwhelmed. I'm already not juggling everything perfectly. I can't tell you the last time we had a home cooked meal. You know, we were eating a lot of frozen burritos and frozen pizzas right now, which I hate. Like I want to be making, you know, fresh cooked meals. And I try to balance things the best I can, but it is, when it's at home, it's all blurred and it can be tricky. So
yeah. And that's why I think it would be really cool, you know, whether it's 2 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now, when you do make that transition, you have your new systems in play, new employees, et cetera. I think it'd be really cool. I think people would love to be able to follow kind of you and your journey on that. So you can come back and say, here's how the transition went. Here's what's better. Here's what I wish I would have done sooner. I know for myself, the second I hired my first personal assistant, game over. I should have done it 6 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, it's so if I can give any advice, being kind of, I'm not on the other side by any means, I'm still in transition myself, but having the help, it's tough to let go of the control, but it is tremendously helpful. I wish I would have done it sooner.
Yeah,
it frees up your time to do what you're good at. You're solid at sourcing, right? Chances are you hate the prepping and the shipping and all that stuff.
Yes.
I think that's FBA in general. Most of us love the hunt. We don't like the packing and shipping.
No.
So the second you outsource that, that's going to free up so much more time. So then you can hit an AM and a PM sourcing, right?
Yes,
You,
definitely.
you could focus on your strength.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And it's just letting go of the control a little bit and trusting someone to be in my home working and doing it the way, like I'm like a little bit type A, just a teeny bit. And like, I like it a certain way, but you're right. Like I'm going to have to let go of that a little bit to free up my time. And I think I feel like I read this in Tim Ferriss. I'm a big fan of Tim Ferriss. And his 4-hour work week, he talks about this. Like, what are your strengths? What do you make an hour when you're doing your best at this? And sourcing, you know, I'm making $500, $600 an hour in how much I'm finding and what the potential profit. What I'm not doing with the shipping though is I'm not making money there. I'm just eating time. And so if I can hire someone to do that for $10 an hour, that frees me up to go then make my $500 an hour sourcing. So you're exactly right. And that is, so we are planning on that. That's the next steps. It's just getting everything, all our ducks in a row a little bit first with the bookkeeping and the accounting. And then once we're there, and like I would say even a week or two, we're at that point where we can bring someone on.
Awesome. Yeah. And of course, you guys, this is going to be different for each of you. Some of you, obviously, like bookkeeping, accounting, taxes, that's a big important thing. So of course, number one, hire a CPA. Just
yes,
get that out.
yes, just do it. It's so complicated.
It's like, and for me, it's almost non-negotiable. Like the second I became self-employed, I'm not even going to touch my own taxes.
Yes. No.
No. I don't trust my abilities there.
Nightmare.
So yeah, it's going to be different for each of you. You know, some of you love the grind. You love to hustle. You love to do all of it. So you're probably not going to outsource any of that stuff. But, you know, like you've seen in Ashley's stories, you've seen it in my stories, there's that pivot point where you are physically capped out on your time and you need to start working smarter, not harder. And that's where you do need to outsource certain things and focus on what is going to bring you the best ROI on your time. So yeah. Ashley, I thank you so much for coming on here. It's been awesome sitting here, know you, chat with you, listen to your story. I know the viewers are going to love it. And aside from that, I know you are starting a little social media launch. I caught word of. So do you have any shout outs you want to do on your social media? Go ahead. This is where you can plug your stuff. Let people know, how do we find you?
Sure. So my main social media outlet is on Instagram at Hustle at Home Mom. And I started that like almost a little less than a couple months ago. And it's just really grown into this really cool community of people we're just helping each other. Like I'm trying to give tips with you get a little background if you want it, like you don't have to, but like I do little stories of throughout my day, what my day kind of looks like. And then just shout little tips. What's that?
Behind the scenes. And that's the coolest part. This was the stuff I was kind of stalking, because that's how I got to know you and your mentality with the hustle. That's how I got to know, is watching the behind the scenes.
Yeah, no, yeah. It's like it's a sneak peek into like, it's a little crazy. You see the late nights and you see I'm packing stuff, and then I'll give tips about how I price things, or, you know, how I bag things, where I get my supplies, you know, I'll give those tips. So yeah, that's a cool community what we've created. So yeah, that's at Hustle at Home Mom. And then, I have a YouTube channel. There are 0 videos on it currently, but it is going to grow. And if you pay attention to my Instagram, I'll be shouting out when that will be. So those are my 2 main channels I'm going to focus on right now. And I would just recommend, if you want to follow, no pressure. I get it if you don't, but like, if you want to follow along, Instagram, I'll be telling you about the next steps I'm taking with social media. So
awesome. And you guys can find all that information down below. You will have seen it popped over on the side of the video with those tags. So go give Ashley a follow. Hustle at Home Mom. You have been amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. And thank you for all you've done. I learned a ton from you over the summer when I was just starting out. Like with this Facebook group, I learned a ton. And like, that's where I would recommend anyone, just, if you have questions, really, you just tap the search bar in the Facebook group and you search for it, and you'll see a ton of stuff. So I learned a ton from this community. So I thank you, definitely. Awesome. And for the opportunity to talk. Thank you so much.
Glad to hear it. Thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time.